Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I have something just slightly different to share with you, but I think it's a pretty fun project. So let's jump right in. So I'm sorting through the Tim Holtz backdrops here. This is volume 4, and it has a lot of more grungy, more neutral pieces in it. And you can see that I'm kind of setting aside a few to the left-hand side that I want to work with. I picked out 4 different backdrops that I want to work with. In this video, we're only going to create one of them. My goal, at least you guys tell me what you think. I'm going to create all 4, and then I want to attach them together, and then I'm going to give away this project. I just thought that it would be a really fun way to say thank you to people who support my channel and, come back and check out my videos and, just communicate and hang out with me as I spend my time making these projects. And I thought that it would be kind of a fun thing to receive, that then you could either, turn it into a little journal, or you could keep it as a project, or you could add it to one of your own projects, or whatever you wanted to do with it. Because at that point, of course, it's yours. But that is my thought, and I'll get more into that as we get going here. But so I chose my 4 backgrounds, and then I ran them through with the Tim Holtz specimen dies from chapter 3. This is the folder from those dies, and I'm going to run them all through with that die so that I have 4 folders that are the same size, with just different kind of backgrounds to them, or different neutrals. And then I'm going to start working on the decorations that I did for this one. Now, this is a fairly long video for me. I tend not to do really long videos just because YouTube doesn't always show them as much as shorter videos. So hopefully if you enjoyed this video, leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing so that it shows YouTube that you do enjoy my videos, even if they're a bit longer than some of the other videos. I would really appreciate that. If you wouldn't mind, that would be fabulous. And then here I'm just reinforcing the score line that's in the center of the folder. This just makes it a lot easier for me to get them to actually fold nicely. I am going to put them together. As I said, I kind of want to make like a little flip book or a little journal, however you want to look at it. And I also pulled out a bunch of colored cardstock. This is from the Tim Holtz Backdrops Volume 5, which was the volume that came out with all the different palette colors. So for this first one, I'm going to work with pinks and browns. That's kind of going to be the focus of this one. There may be slightly different colors, like there'll be a little bit of white, a little bit of black, but the biggest focus will be on kind of a pink and a brown palette. And then you see some other colors that I've pulled out. Those are going to be for the other folders. I believe I pulled out some orange, some blue, and some purple. And I'm kind of going to make each folder a certain color so that it kind of just is fun. And it's when I put them all together, I think they'll look really pretty together. And then I do have this little doily. I have some doilies I purchased off of Amazon a while ago. I have quite a few of them. So I like to bring them into projects as a really fun backdrop to other pieces of paper. And collage is not something I do super often, but I really enjoy when I get to kind of play with it. So here I'm going to show you a very basic look at me kind of just playing with different pieces of paper, different textures, different just interests of different looks and lengths and widths and that kind of thing to create a really interesting background. This is the background. You guys saw the picture in the beginning. That's what I'm aiming for. And of course, the picture I take after I've actually done everything. So it was a bit of a challenge. I did have to kind of work through things. You see that I bring in my vintage photo to kind of edge my pieces of paper, just because it gives them a little more of a vintage look and feel, which I really like. And then I do that for most of the pieces, but not all, just because some pieces are a little harder. And you did see that I did also bring in some dragonflies that I made out of resin. This is the first time I've ever used resin in this project, so bear with me. I'm sure people who are a lot more experienced in it are going to be like, wow, Sierra, I don't know what the heck you were thinking. Fair. I didn't know what I was doing. So be kind to me in my lack of knowledge, and I'm just kind of having fun and playing along with really fun products that I have on hand. So I am pretty much just building a collage here as my background. I've brought in several different pieces of cardstock, most of them from Tim Holtz, although some not. Like this piece of book page, I have that in my stash. I believe a pen pal gave it to me. And then I kind of just incorporate whatever feels like it looks good. This die is also out of that same specimen set. It's just for a kind of a bigger rounded rectangle. I thought this would be really fun to have as a panel on the inside of the folder that kind of swings out, though I did push a little too hard when I added my eyelet, so it doesn't swing nicely, but it can swing out, and I will show you that once we kind of get into that. But I kind of keep just working through whatever kind of feels like it would look pretty and kind of falls into the color scheme. So instead of introducing any really new colors, I am really trying to stick to pinks, browns. There's a little bit of green in there because of course it's a floral. And then I'm going to bring in some rub-ons. These are stunning. They're 49th and Market. I'm pretty sure they're new. They're a part of their new collection, and they're just super pretty. So this is the Gardenia Leaves rub-ons, and then you're going to see another set of rub-ons here in a second that I used that were the botanical rub-ons. And these are just those transfer sheets, the same thing that Tim Holtz makes. These just happen to be super vibrant and really, really pretty. And I had to bring them in on this project because they're just so stunning. And they meld really well into the design. Like you're going to see here in a minute when I actually put some on the inside of the folder. So this is the Botanicals one. And there are different colors. So I think each pack of these comes in 6 colors. Pink obviously being one of them, but they're in like a rainbow array of colors, so it doesn't matter really what project or what color you want your project to have on it. That pretty much would work with any of them. So I just cut out random pieces that I wanted to use for this project and kind of just adhered them over top of my layers that I had already added. I really liked these kind of squares. You'll see me bring them in again here in a second, but they came out of the botanical rub-ons, and I really liked them, so I added them in a few different places. And then this is where we're going to kind of get more into the mixed media effect. So that little piece you see me working here with, it came out of the Tim Holtz I believe the Palette Ephemera pack, and I just loved that it had that little hole and it was in the pink colors and it looked really cute. So I did put some vintage photo around it, and then here I've had this warm velvet trims from Tim Holtz forever. And you guys, I like pink. So when I started thinking about this project, I thought that this would be a really fun thing to bring into this, to add, different textures and different interests and different things to my design. So I also brought in the Tim Holtz word tags. These are from the Ideology set. I think these are fairly new. At least they're super new to me. I didn't know they existed until recently. And I just chose the word happy because I want this project, especially because I'm going to give it away to one of you, I want it to be very positive. I want it to be something that you smile when you look at, and it brings you happiness. So I'm kind of trying really hard to go with things that are positive and that make me happy and smile, so that whoever receives it hopefully feels that energy and gets to have just a really positive project or like end thing that they can enjoy or whatever they choose to do with it. At that point, it's really up to the person who wins it, but I'm just trying really hard to make sure that it is a very happy project that someone can enjoy. So I did use that velvet, and I used that to kind of stick above the little tag that I've made. And then I added some brown twine to tie the little bow on it and to add that little word tag, I believe they're called. Yeah, word tag. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of the rub-on. So this is actually a Tim Holtz set. This one is the Eccentrics rub-ons, I believe. And I'm going to cut that circle in half because I wanted another shape kind of involved in this. And I wanted to introduce a little bit of black because at this point I decided I wanted to use the sentiment labels, and they are very dark. So I wanted to introduce some black into the design so that it wasn't like there was just one black element. I do try in my projects, if I'm going to use multiple colors, to have them repeating in different areas. So it's kind of what I was aiming for. And I also brought in these really cute wings. This is from the Tim Holtz Transparent Wings set. And it's just like a little set of wings that I'm going to adhere on to the little tag that I'm going to add in. And I just used my reverse tweezers to kind of hold it in place. And yes, you did see me use 2 sets of reverse tweezers to tie my bow. If you guys have been with me for a hot minute, you know that I struggle with bows because I do have longer fingernails. So that does make it a little bit of a struggle sometimes when I'm doing finer detail items. So then I use whatever I have on hand, and that happens to be something that I have sitting here, so I thought that was pretty fun. And then I brought in an eyelet and my Crop-A-Dial, and I just attached that tag kind of up into the left hand corner. It does turn, and I'll show you that here in a second, but it struggles because I pushed the eyelid a little bit too tight because I didn't even think about it at the time. And then I realized that I was going to make it a lot more difficult. But these are those colored squares I was talking about that I just love. They're kind of patchy, but they're bright and vibrant and beautiful. And they're just in shades of pink. And I love that. So I'm going to add a few of them to the front of the folder here. And I did add a second set of leaves on the inside of the folder. I don't remember if I show you that. I might show you that in the next clip actually. But I did add some of these really pretty colored squares just randomly to a few different areas because I'm in love with these rub-ons. I think that they're so pretty and they're so vibrant. And I'm really digging rub-ons right now. And don't ask me why. I don't, they're just so fun to work with. And they just meld into your project so beautifully that it's just so fun to kind of pick them out and just add them randomly around in different areas. So I've just been having a lot of fun playing with those. So you see here that I did add quite a few to this project, but I think that it turns out really stunning and I love how it looks. So I did add one more colored square on the front because I like to do them in threes. And then this is where, okay, so I'm going to show you. I did swing it out so that I could adhere this one or rub this one on just kind of again. And you can see how lovely they look. Like when you lift off the plastic, because that's what's reflecting so much. When you lift off the plastic that holds the rub on, they just, like you can see what's underneath through it. So you get this just really cool merge of whatever's behind it and then this rub on. And I'm just loving how that goes together. So I'm just really enjoying working with rub-ons because I think that they just work in the project so well. So this, I'm going to use some resin. This is the first time I've ever used resin. So, don't hate me if I did a horrible job at it. I've never used it before, and I'm using a quicker curing resin. And everything I always use is always linked and listed down below if you're ever curious about what I'm using. I always try to have it there if you're interested. So I did use this and I made way too much, not realizing it because, of course, at this point I have never done this before. I'm in a super well ventilated area, but I didn't wear gloves, and you should. You should really practice proper PPE when you're working with something that's a chemical. Don't follow what I do. Do, the smart thing. I was lazy and I didn't have any gloves on hand, and because I have longer nails, gloves can be kind of a pain in the butt. Because, as you guys know, I was a carried for 10 years, so I didn't have nails then, obviously, but I have lots of experience with gloves and frustrations with them. But so I'm showing you here, you saw me scrape some of the excess off onto a piece of paper towel so I could clean it up. Luckily, I am working on my glass mat, so it's really easy for me to tidy it up, as you can see here. I did use a little bit of rubbing alcohol to kind of get a little bit of the stuff that adhered, but really it was quite easy to get off. And you're going to see here that it's even easier to peel these off. These are completely cured at this point. I think I left them for about 10 minutes, but they cured beautifully. It was an experience and it was really interesting. I did have a lot of fun though. And I did do this twice. And I chose to do the whole mold because I made way too much resin, not realizing how much I should have made. But what do you know, right? Like it's a learning experience, as is everything. So I wanted 3 dragonflies and there's 2 in the mold. So I did end up doing a second casting of the resin to do a second set of the butterfly or the dragonflies so that I could have 3 on this, and then I'll just save everything for a future project. So I am going to just add some gesso on top of them. This is just because I wasn't totally sure how it would take the paint, and I wanted the paint colors to stay true to what they were in the bottle. So this may be an unnecessary step, but I have gesso on hand, so I just figured that this was a good way to just make sure that I wouldn't have any issues with painting them afterwards, because I am going to bring in some acrylic paint and just add color to my dragonflies so that they match my project, because I do want them to be pink. So I did just use a flat brush and went over all of them, left them to dry. And then here I brought in Distress Oxide. This is the Distress color palette. It's spun sugar. If I had owned Kitsch Flamingo or Picked Raspberry, I would have used those for the next part. Sadly, I'm just slowly collecting the Distress line of acrylic paint, so I don't own very many of them at this point. But this was really fun to play with, so I probably will end up investing in some more of them. But I do have other acrylic paint on hand, so I just grabbed a couple of extra pink colors out of my other sets to bring in a little more of that pink color. I'm not going to bring any brown onto this, though you absolutely could if you wanted to give it a more vintage feel. I kind of went with the more pink side of this and then let the background be more vintage style, just because I felt that worked better for what I was kind of trying to achieve. But of course, you could paint them any color you want to. It's completely up to you. This is just kind of what I thought about doing. So that was Spun Sugar. And then these two colors, these are Liquitex. And they are an acrylic paint. And I have medium magenta and quinacridone magenta. So that's kind of what I brought in for the wings. And I'm just kind of trying to create like a pink ombre between the three colors on the dragonfly's wings. So I thought that looked really pretty. I mean, it's not the best blend in the world, but honestly, it's such a small piece to work on that I think that it turned out really pretty regardless. And I do have a palette sitting beside me. So you can see that white palette that I'm putting my paint on. I also have the Tim Holtz mat down on top of my glass mat, just because I knew that I was going to bring in my glue gun, my hot glue gun, and that I was going to paint. So I used that mat on top of my glass mat, just because that's what it's for. It's a tool to kind of work with different mediums. And there are some air bubbles. I don't care. It's only going to be on the mat while we work through the steps. So it didn't really matter to me that there's air bubbles, but you can remove them if you want to. Just watch Tim Holtz live when he announced this mat, and he gives you tips on how to do that if that's upsetting to you at all. I don't care. It doesn't affect how my painting is going on. So it's really not upsetting to me at all, but completely up to you. So I did try to have the darkest color in the center of the wings, and then I went back out to my medium tone, and then my lightest tone will be at the end of the wings. And I just kind of tried to ombre them the best that I could with such a small amount of paint and a small area. And then for some added interest, I did bring in some Prima white pearl wax. This is stunning. It adds just a little sheen on top of the wings, which I thought was really pretty. I'm just putting it on with my finger. You could use a brush if you wanted to. I didn't feel the need. I thought that this was good enough. But yeah, I think that it kind of also gave me a little more control to just put the color on the wings to kind of give them a little more of an iridescent look. And the paint is pretty well dry at this point as well. So that was kind of just an easy way to do that. So I'm also going to bring in some tulle here in a second, and I'm trying really hard to play with different textures. So with this, I brought in the tulle, I brought in that velvet trim. I've got some mixed media stuff going on. I just thought it would be really fun to rip the tulle. And of course that made glitter fall everywhere, but it was a lot of fun to do. And then I'm going to use my hot glue gun to actually adhere my dragonflies on top of the tulle so that I don't have to bring any adhesive in to get the tulle to stay where I need it to. This is, just another way for me to have the glue go through the tulle and not have to try to adhere it. I just found that the easiest way to do this. And this is hot glue gun I actually got from Michaels. So I don't think it was very expensive, and it has a really nice fine tip, which you guys know from my glue, I like a fine tip so that I have a little more control as to where it's going. And then I just coated the center of the dragonflies, and then I adhered them down on top of that tulle to make sure it would stay where I wanted it to. And then I'm going to bring in a sentiment here in a second. And you don't need to add a sentiment. This is a cool project on its own, but I feel like this is going to be the one in the front, right? That's why it's kind of the thickest. So I wanted it to just have something kind of fun in a black color. That's why I did introduce black on the inside as well. So I just cut this Hello Friend sentiment label strip down, and then I'm going to have that also sit on top of the tulle, which will just keep it there as well. So that is the project I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd really love to hear what you think of how this kind of turned out. I had a blast with it, and I cannot wait to make the other ones because I'm just really excited to play. But you guys let me know what you think. I'd love to know. I'm just going to hold it up a little closer to the camera here so you can see all of its glory. I think it turned out really pretty. So yeah, leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. That lets YouTube know that you enjoy my content, and lets me know that you guys are enjoying my content and you want to see some more of it. So thank you so much, guys. I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.